Hello, I'm Dr. Ruben West, and welcome to this DVD series on Live Your Best Life. First of all, I want to thank you for ordering the bundle. I believe it's going to change your life, and welcome to this DVD series. We have people who have been down the road that you've been down, and they've faced the roadblocks, but they're willing to help guide you through, and this DVD series is going to do just that. You're going to learn techniques and strategies to overcome the mountains in your life, to overcome the roadblocks in your life, to overcome the setbacks in your life. And here's what I can tell you. What looks like the end of the road is really just a bend in the road if you're willing to make the turn. And our team is willing to help you make that turn. So thank you.
I used to hate that I didn't fit in until I realized I was born to stand out. There was a study done at the University of Texas with young boys and girls, teenage age, that just didn't feel like they fit in. They didn't fit in with their families, with their friends. They felt like they were treated differently by their families. And they realized that 68% of these boys and 57% of the girls weren't going to go to college simply because they felt like they didn't fit in. How many of you have felt that way? You just felt like you were treated differently by your family, your peer groups, your teachers. They treated you differently than maybe your siblings. Well, the great news is you're not crazy, and it's not all in your head. We live in a society today where so many of us just don't feel like we fit in. We know that our family unit is different and that our parents treated us differently than our sisters and brothers. Whether you were the firstborn, the middle child, or even a latter-born, there were different expectations that were put upon you based on the rank that you were born into in your family. Have you ever felt that way? Have you felt that maybe your parents expected more of you than they did of your sisters or brothers? That you had to be the high achiever, that you had to get the best grades, that you had to know what you were going to do with your life before you were even ready to set out on that adventure? So many people feel that same way too. And I want you to know that we've actually done research and studies now and found that there is a scientific reason for that. You know, I have some great information here, some statistics that I want to make sure that I get to you. So we're going to go through these today, but I want to get you this information. So scientist Charles Darwin, author Frank Sellaway, and Dr. Carol Dweck, a famous research professor, found that there is actually birth order characteristics, that the order that you were born into in your family carries with it a set of traits and characteristics that you may not even know that you have. And because of that birth order, your parents have expectations for you, things that they don't even realize that they put upon you because of the order that you were born in into the family. Now you combine those with some outside influences. Now within the family, we tend to all have the same experiences, but what about when you go out there into the world? What about those life experiences, the friends that you have and the things that you do with them? And then the experiences you have at school with your teachers. You bring that information, those experiences back with you into the family unit. Combined with the expectations your parents have of you, this is what creates our reality. And whether that's actually the case or not, it's our reality. Now, I can tell you, I was the youngest child. I have one older sister who was, as we know through research, the firstborn. My parents had expectations for her. They looked to her differently than they looked to me. And I realized this just a short time ago, that we were treated differently. Her name is Stephanie, and I had this conversation with her. I said, Stephanie, why did Mom and Dad treat you different? Why were there different expectations for you than there were for me? And through this research, I realized that there were biological reasons, scientific reasons, that our parents treated us differently. So what's important to know is that just because you feel this way, just because you may have been treated differently within your family, this sets this helps to set your personality. This helps to determine who you are as a person and who you grow up to be. So I want to share with you a couple points today that are going to help you not only recognize this place that you were born into, but how you can use these characteristics to build the best life that you want, to build your dream life per se. That just because of the birth rank that you were born into or the expectations that were set upon you, that doesn't mean that that has to be your destiny. You can create the life that you've always dreamed of using what you've been given and what you can create within yourself. So the first thing is to recognize that there are differences. There are differences between my sister and I. I'm pretty sure that my parents are glad that there are differences. You know, there's only 2 of us in the family, but we are so drastically different. You know, my sister, the firstborn, is the high achiever. There were expectations put upon her to get the best grades, to go to the greatest colleges, to have her career set out for her the minute she went off to school. And she lived with those expectations her whole life. She lived knowing that she had to fulfill this destiny that my parents had set out for her. That firstborn child has a lot of expectations put upon them. And we now know that a lot of that is contributed to, if we look at our evolutionary history. You know, our ancient ancestors, that firstborn child was so critically important. They had invested all of their energy and all of their characteristics into creating this child that would carry on their legacy. They had to live their whole life fulfilling that destiny of their parents. So they were the high achievers. They were the goal-oriented, mindset-driven children. And then there's me. I'm the youngest. I was the baby of the family, and I got away with everything. You know, parents of firstborns, they fill out that baby book, everything in it. They take pictures of every milestone that the child achieves. But that secondborn, yeah, I can tell you there's probably only about 3 or 4 pages filled out in my baby book. I maybe had a picture of the first day of kindergarten, but now I understand why. I always used to think differently of my sister. Why did she have all this great stuff? Why did she get all the attention of my parents? Why was I the one left to just do whatever I wanted? No, it was great at times, but now I understand why. So yes, these last born or later born children, they're the free-spirited ones. They're the ones who are a little more liberal and tend to be more focused on the social activities. That was certainly me. They also tend to be a little manipulative. See, they can work their magic with their parents to get the things that they want, because their parents are not quite as focused on them as ensuring the destiny of that oldest child. And finally, there are gender differences. Imagine the destiny of the firstborn son. When we look at our ancestors, again, they had to fulfill that destiny. They had to survive, thrive, and then reproduce to carry on that legacy. They had to ensure that their species, that their tribe would continue, and therefore all the traits that went along with that. So we look at the traits and characteristics of each of these children, and we can see ourselves in them, and suddenly it starts to seem maybe not so crazy. Maybe there are others who feel the same way that we feel. You know, I told you about my sister, and I had the opportunity to attend a self-development course a few months back, and I went through the first day of that course, and I thought about my sister, and I realized that not only did she have the expectations set upon her by my parents as the firstborn, but that I treated her different. I looked at her differently, and I called her and I said, "Steph, I just need to apologize. You see, I treated you differently. I thought of you differently. I thought you were just the golden child that got whatever mom and dad wanted. You know, I felt like I had to work harder for their attention. That you had the greatest grades, that you knew what you were going to go off to college and do. Your whole life was planned out for you. And I resented you for that. She said, you know what, Jen? I felt the same way. You were the one who was the social butterfly. You were involved in all the athletics and all the sports. You had the greatest group of friends. And I resented you for that. And I have to apologize to you for that. And it was the most enlightening conversation. And I realized that just by the destiny of the order that we were born into, that this was part of it. And that just because I wasn't the firstborn, just because my sister wasn't the lastborn, that didn't mean that I had to resent her for those characteristics. I just simply needed to use the skills and the talents that I had within myself to create the life that I wanted. So what do we do with this information? Now that we know this, now that we're armed with all these tools, how can we use that to create the life that we've always wanted? The first thing that we need to do is we need to create what's called a growth mindset. Now, the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Fixed mindset believes that we're handed these cards, that this is what we're given in life, and that we really can't do anything about it. And unfortunately, we just need to make do with what we've got. We don't really see opportunities for other things in our life. We don't see new possibilities. But if we can move to a place of a growth mindset, yes, I have been dealt these cards, but that doesn't mean that this has to be my life. It doesn't mean that it dictates my destiny. It opens up a whole new set of possibilities for our life. The second thing is to uncover the blind spots in our lives. You know, when you move from that place of a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, you realize that there are things there that you never even saw. Imagine a racehorse all lined up in the stall, getting ready for his race. Well, what do they put on that racehorse? You see, they've got blinders because they don't want them to see all the other things around them. There may be new possibilities for them. They may want to go running off in a different direction. But when you take those blinders off, you see the amazing possibilities that are there for your life. So number one, you have to move from a place of a fixed mindset to that of a growth mindset. Secondly, uncover those blind spots and realize things that are there that you never even knew existed. And then lastly, what I call the 3 R's. Alan Deutschman, in his book Change or Die, studied patients who had had heart attacks and underwent open heart surgery. Now, these patients exhibited behaviors that just were not conducive to them living an extended, healthy life. And he followed these patients after they had had their open heart surgery to see what they would do with their behavior. What he found is that these people would rather die than change their behaviors to live the life that would allow them to be healthy and continue to live a long life. So he developed this system called the 3 R's. The first thing is that you have to relate. If you're wanting to make a change in your life, it's hard. We all know, we've all tried to change something, whether it was weight loss, a job, anything else in our life. It's hard to make that change. But the first thing you can do is find someone to relate to. If you can find a group of people that are trying to do the same things that you're doing, you share that common experience. You relate to each other and can draw on each other for support when those times get tough. The second thing is that you have to repeat the behavior. They show that consistent action day after day after day, eventually you see that change in your behavior. So number one, you have to relate. Number two, you have to repeat. And then the third thing is you have to reframe your mind. You have to change your mindset. You have to think differently. You know that for some people that may be using vision boards and putting up pictures of what you want your life to be like. Seeing those things all the time helps us to change our mindset and see the new possibilities for our life. So you must relate, repeat, and then reframe your mind. You know, Wayne Dwyer said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. So now that you're armed with this new knowledge, what becomes your new normal? What becomes of the life that you want to create? You're armed with this knowledge. You've uncovered these blind spots, and you've moved yourself from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. You can now view your problems as possibilities. The questions that you face around the challenges become exciting and games to overcome rather than problems that we're faced with. When you have that mindset of success, when you can see things differently for your life, it opens up a whole new set of possibilities. So use the characteristics of your birth order. Recognize that there are things that you are born into, characteristics that you have, traits that you have just because of the rank that you were born with. But it doesn't have to determine your destiny. With a new way of looking at things, with a new set of possibilities, you can create the life that you've always imagined. Use those 3 R's to change your life. Relate, repeat, and then reframe your thinking. You know, there are reasons we all feel different in our lives, but knowing that there's a scientific, biological reason why you feel different than your siblings, this can be the beginning of helping to change your life. Again, my name is Dr. Jennifer Tuley, and I would love to hear from you. Please reach out to me. Again, it's Dr. Jennifer Tuley, Tuley. You can reach me at my website, jennifertuley.com. That's JenniferTuley.com. Thank you for tuning in.